Why would your name be redacted if you're not a victim? Like, this is what's crazy about all this.
Welcome back, folks, and buckle up because we're diving headfirst into the cesspool that is the Epstein files. Joe Rogan is raging, and honestly, who can blame him? The level of deception, the outright cover-ups, and the sheer audacity of the elite involved in this whole sick saga is enough to make your blood boil. We're talking about unredacted names, powerful figures, and a government that seems more intent on protecting the guilty than protecting the innocent and serving justice. It's a clown show, folks, and we're here to pull back the curtain on the biggest act in town. Let's roll the tape and let's get into it.
Like, how come you redact some people and you don't redact other people? Like, what is this? This is not good. None of this is good for this administration. It looks terrible. It looks terrible. It looks terrible for Trump when he was saying that none of this was real. This is all a hoax. This is not a hoax. Like, did you not know? Maybe he didn't know, if you want to be charitable. But this is definitely not a hoax.
Look, definitely not a hoax is the understatement of the century. But here's the kicker. When the government actively redacts names, hides evidence, and makes it impossible for the public to get the full truth, it only fuels the hoax narrative for some. They create the vacuum, then act surprised when people steal it with skepticism. It's like trying to hide an elephant in a phone booth, and they get mad when people ask, "What's that giant lump?" The real hoax isn't the existence of these files. It's the idea that our institutions are genuinely committed to transparency and justice for everyone. Redacting powerful names while exposing victims? That's not justice. That's damage control for the elite.
So there's two different problems that Donald Trump has when Joe Rogan started talking about this issue. Number one is the political damage that is done, and you're gonna see a lot more of that in the clips that we're about to show you. And number two is, my God, the details of these Epstein files are unbelievable. So there is a torture video that is referenced that Rogan was talking about. There's missing babies. So Jordan, why don't you tell us more about what Rogan said recently?
So that clip is from yesterday's episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. And here's more of Rogan questioning why the names of powerful figures were redacted while some victims had their names exposed.
It just keeps getting crazier and crazier and crazier and deeper and deeper. And so Ro Khanna and Massey just released the names of these guys that had been redacted from the list. And one of them is what is his last name?
Les
Wexner. But these files, just what's come out so far, and the fact that they redacted men, these like powerful billionaire guys, their names were redacted. Like, there's one of them where he's talking about pandemic planning.
What?
Where Jeffrey Epstein is talking about pandemic planning to someone named Bill, whose name is redacted. It's like, why are you redacting the guy's name that you're talking about planning for a pandemic, like what to do in response to a pandemic? Well, why is his name retracted?
So
or redacted, rather.
Fair question. Cenk, what do you make of this?
Yeah, so a lot of the victims' names were not redacted, but the perpetrators' names were redacted. I wonder who the government works for. So guys, this is not an open question anymore. So like, don't let mainstream media gaslight you. So first of all, we know who Epstein was working for. He did cyber weapons deals for Israel. He set up a security agreement between Israel and Mongolia, between Israel and other countries. Every deal was in favor of Israel. And so why did they not release Les Wexner's name until Ro Khanna and Massey found it? Well, it turns out the FBI thought he was a co-conspirator. But remember, this is the guy who owned Victoria's Secret, handed over all of his money to Jeffrey Epstein. For a while, I thought he was being blackmailed since he handed over his money, but no, he apparently was a willing participant in this scheme. And also an enormous supporter of, you'll never guess, Mongolia? No, it turns out Israel, okay? And so our government has been hiding what Jeffrey Epstein's been doing and Ghislaine Maxwell for over 20 years. CIA knew about Epstein. In fact, they made a deal with Epstein in the 1980s in the middle of the Iran-Contra affair. So Epstein was one of the most powerful men on earth, and every deal he did was on behalf of Israel. So why do you think our government is redacting all of the criminals' names and trying to smear their victims? Because our government has been helping their government do this spying operation, blackmail operation inside this country for decades.
Decades. Yes, decades. Let that sink in for a moment. Decades of our government allegedly aiding and abetting a spying operation and blackmail operation right here in our own country. This isn't just about a few bad apples, folks. This is about a whole rotten orchard. When you hear stuff like this, you have to ask, who truly holds the power? Is it the people we elect, or is it some shady cabal, pulling strings from behind the scenes, protecting foreign interests over American citizens? It feels less like a government of the people and more like a carefully orchestrated puppet show where we, the taxpayers, are footing the bill for our own deception. It's a chilling thought, but it's getting harder and harder to ignore.
I think, Jordan, we're going to talk about torture videos here in a second and some of the guys behind it. And by the way, one of the guys is from the United Arab Emirates. And so I wanted to come back after you give the details and go, I thought maybe it's the United Arab Emirates, right? Because what do I know? I don't know who these crazy secret guys are, right? But I'll tell you why it's not likely to be them as the main culprit, although this guy that we're about to tell you about was terrible.
Yeah, I think just to touch on what Rogan said, I really can't appreciate or thank Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie enough for their leadership on this. A rare bipartisan agreement that is leading to a monumental moment in our country's history, one for transparency at a time totally defined by secrecy. So appreciate them and their continued fight for transparency. I was talking to my wife last night because you watch that Bondi hearing and you see just how defiant she was. And then you see Massie in there pulling the covers off the names, pulling the paper redactions to show how absurd it was that they tried to hide these people while leaving the victims' names totally unredacted. That was a deliberate attempt to try to intimidate these victims. It's disgusting. And I was joking to my wife, I'm worried about Thomas Massie's life. At this point, he is just so defiant. And the right-wing media, I don't know if you saw on Twitter today, some of the most prominent right-wing media figures are zeroing in on this guy. I don't know, he tweeted out jokingly, maybe half jokingly, I'm not suicidal, I'm in good health, I'm a good swimmer, all of this stuff.
Yeah,
there's a part of it that worries about his well-being.
I know a lot more about that stuff, and I've experienced some of that stuff, so I don't want to get too deep into it. But first, let me just double down on what you're saying. Ro Khanna and Tom Massie in this regard are absolute American heroes. We would not have seen these files if it wasn't for the heroic work of Ro Khanna and Tom Massie. So Massie is now having millions and millions of dollars being spent against him in a primary. And you're not gonna believe whose supporters are spending those millions of dollars. The Mongolians. Oh no, it's the Israelis. I think it's John Polson, Paul Singer, Miri Madelson. I think they've already given over $4 million and just pouring money in. Defeat the Israel's enemies to make sure no one in the American government can ever defy Israel.
Okay, that's not just a casual observation, folks. When a congressman like Thomas Massie, an absolute American hero for pushing transparency, has to publicly declare he's not suicidal, you know we're in deep, deep trouble. The idea that millions of our dollars are poured into defending critics of a foreign nation, specifically Israel, within our own political system, that's not just public influence. That is outright hostile takeover of our democratic process. It screams Banana Republic, not land of the free. It highlights who really runs the show in Washington. And unfortunately, folks, it's not the American voter. It's a stark warning to anyone who dares to speak the truth to power that, you know what, you need to watch your back.
So there's an Israeli mafia inside this country. And that's why, I've said it too. I'm not suicidal. In fact, off air, I'm the happiest guy you'll ever meet because we're worried.
So there you have it, folks. The Epstein files aren't just a scandal. They're a gaping wound in the fabric of our society. exposing the rod at the highest levels of power and influence. It's not just about sex trafficking. It's about control, blackmail, and an alleged shadow government operating right under our noses. So tell me, what do you think? Are we just seeing the tip of the iceberg? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe for more truth bombs, and share this video far and wide. We need to keep pushing for transparency, because if we don't, who will? And as always, stay vigilant, Patriot. Stay vigilant.